today we are talking about how high achieving women cope with ambiguity. So, ambiguity is a quality of being open to more than one interpretation. And so, if we think about high achieving women and how we view things, and if we think about how we cope, having a whole lot of just options and a whole lot of just possibilities does not sit right with our ability to manage those possibilities. So this looks like, how do you deal with relationships? How do you deal with grief? How do you deal with stress? How do you deal with those situations that maybe you did not expect? Maybe a relationship ends. Maybe a relationship comes to you that you didn't even prepare for. Your mind thought you were prepared, but your heart says, I don't know if we were really ready for that. So then how do you cope with that? How do you deal with this? This is the ambiguity of how do we deal with life when there's no clear interpretation of what it looks like, right? And so we think that there is a block. We think that there's something that we need to do, and there's think that there's something that we should do, but then we get lost somewhere in the sauce. So I'm Sharice Josie. I'm a licensed clinical therapist. I'm a women's leadership coach, and I like to work with a high achieving women leader. And I like to have what I call grown woman chats. These are opportunities for us to have conversations that we typically don't talk about. Who can we say these things to out loud? Who is going to understand us? And maybe we do have that good girlfriend. Maybe we do have a good relationship with our parents. Maybe we do have all these things, but then what is it that we're looking for back from them? And then maybe what we get back is not necessarily what we want. Maybe what we get back is not necessarily something that makes us feel good. Right? And so now I want us to talk about how to deal with that, how to cope, and how to navigate a way that we feel that we are being authentic to us, that we are being authentic to our own experiences. So sometimes if we don't know what to do, right, that just does not sit well with high achieving women. We like to know what to do, and other people also expect us to know what to do. We are the go-tos. We are the strong ones. We are the one that people go to say, hey, how do I fix this? They don't ask how we're doing, right? And so if we're not sure how to deal with this, we may dismiss it. We may get frustrated, or we may even wonder, like, what's the point? If I don't know how to solve this problem, if I don't know what to do, or maybe I don't even have the space or the capacity to do it, what's the problem? We immediately get on the defensive. Now, for us professional folks, right, for us as professional ones, we have this title, or maybe we're very poised, right? We may not say, I don't know what to do. We may put it back on the other person. We may say it's maybe up for you to fix. That could very well be true, but I'll make sure that we're being clear, we're having openness to what that looks like. So let's dive into this. Let's get a little bit clear about what this means. Sometimes when we get into these situations, we don't know what to do. We can deflect. Right? It's on you, or what about this? Especially if we're in a high stress situation. What about this? What about you? What about doing something else? Right? Or we get quiet. How many of y'all cope with quietness? Let me know. Let me know in the comments if you cope with quietness. You're like, this is how I deal with stuff, right? I get reclusive. I think. Sometimes these might be my overthinkers, right? I think. Right? Maybe we get into busyness because business has a start and a stop. We know that we've accomplished something, so now we feel good. Now we feel better, right? Now we feel like we've achieved something. Maybe we start to focus on what we're good at. We focus on our strengths. We focus on whomever or whatever will make us feel better. Is that a bad thing? No, we all want to feel good. We all want to feel validated, but I do just want you to notice the patterns, okay? Maybe we want to focus on the other person, someone else. If you would do something differently, then I would do something differently. If you would respond differently, then I would respond differently, right? Maybe we have these things with like, if it wasn't for you, you would not be forcing me to do these certain things, and then we get upset. Maybe so. You know what this is? This is the absence of vulnerability. This is the absence of vulnerability, right? And so ambiguity says that there's more than one interpretation of something. Vulnerability says I'm going to allow that space so that I can receive the unknown. I know, completely uncomfortable, so against who we are, so against what we're used to, right? But that's what we're used to. And we're taught this, right? We're taught this in childhood. So typically, mostly a lot of the times in the African American communities, but maybe also in other cultures where us not knowing was a problem. Why don't you know this? Aren't we even taught that in schools? That's why we're tested, right? That's why we get the quizzes, because we are supposed to know what to do. We are supposed to know how to do things. And if not, we might be ridiculed. We might be embarrassed. And sometimes it's subtle. Maybe it's not that so, oh my gosh, I can't believe you didn't do this. But maybe it may come across in a way like, you didn't get this right? Let me see your report card. You got a B? You went from an A to a B? You got a C? Or maybe you got even lower, a D or an F? Right? So we don't know what those things, we're not taught that it's okay to have a space of not knowing. There was no space of figuring stuff out because things are usually rushed. Right? If you think about parents, and especially if you had working parents, if you had parents that had the 9 to 5, blue collar worker, where they had to be at work at a certain time and they got off at a certain time, and then things had to happen at a certain time, there wasn't a lot of time for process, right? Even in school, there's time for education, right? And at that time, you need to learn quickly because the test is on Friday. So it makes it feel like there's a process, but in reality, no, there's no process at all. These are the timelines that you were given, and this is what you need to adhere to, and this is your end date. This is your end time. And so as we got older and as we continue to explore that, we realize, oh, I need to know this now. I don't have time to be vulnerable. I don't have time to have all these different types of interpretations of one thing. Everything should be in this linear space. Everything should go this certain way, because then I know what to do with it. Then I know how to handle it. And really that just makes us feel good. It makes us feel valuable. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. No, it's not a bad thing. In its totality, no, it's not a bad thing. But if we do not understand kind of how we can create a space of opportunity and create a space of some clarity, then that's when we start to get in a little bit of trouble. That's when we start to not be sure about how things go, right? So with high achieving grown women, right? Sometimes we think there's no one else that can do it but us. Right? And if they do it, they'll probably do it wrong anyway, so it just makes sense for us to do it. Right? Do y'all ever feel like that? Let me know in the comments. Let me know in the comments if you ever feel like that. Feel like I need to do it. And if I don't do it, this is going to be a whole mess. And I'm going to fix it anyway. So let's go through some steps about how to deal with ambiguity in a high achieving woman. And again, this is having the quality to be open to different interpretations. Now, some of you may be listening to this and saying, like, I am open to other interpretations. I do listen to people. I do that. And that's really you serving. I'm talking about internally, right? I'm talking about internally what this looks like for you, not externally. Because externally it says, I am giving. But what that's hoping for is that they're going to give something back. Is that always a conscious thought? No, sometimes it's unconscious, but we hope that our time and our work and our strength and our value is going to be rewarded either into a verbal recognition or it's going to be rewarded into some type of, if it's a job, promotion, right? Validation. If it's a relationship, there's some type of sense of urgency about me because I have a sense of urgency about you and the relationship. So I'm talking about the internal side, okay? First thing I want you to acknowledge, I want you to try to acknowledge, I want you to try to create some space to acknowledge that the beliefs from society and friends is what is. I want you to acknowledge that there has been this societal expectation that we should know things. There's brief moments when we're told, it's okay, you don't know, just do your best, just try your hardest, and that's all well and good until you fail. Until your report card reflects something other than an A or a B. Some of our parents are fine with C's. Don't get too many, right? But We are fine at a certain level until, and it's that until that we have learned to get kind of scared of, that we're learning to protect, that we're trying not to get too caught up in the until part. Does that make sense? Let me know in the comments. Let me know what you think about this. It's the until part. The until part has learned to keep us stuck. But if we acknowledge and say, you know what, this is the external factors that I have been given. These are the external factors that I know that I have been dealt with, that now I need to learn how to cope with. I need to learn how to deal with. And I understand that my parents, that society, that teachers, that supervisors, that legal agencies, whatever, have all this expectations of certain things. I understand that. My job is to figure out what place do I fit and what part is just really not my ministry to do. Acknowledge that part. The second thing I want you to do is to embrace that there's more than one interpretation of how things should get done. There's more than one way. There's more than one way to interpret how things should get done. So if you're like me, I like processes and procedures, right? But other people are visionaries. They like to look at the big picture. So would you give them a detail-oriented task? No. That might be you. And I want you to even think about this in terms of your relationship. Would you give someone else a task that you know they're not good at? No. Think about your children. If you have children, think about your children and their different personalities and their different strengths. You may be heavy on one child because that person has proven their ability to take care of certain things without you having to repeat and nag and yell and all those things. And the other child, you're like, oh, okay, you I'm have to have a little bit more time for, right? Because you don't have the motivation that I feel like you may need. Same thing with our spouses, right? With our spouses, we may think, or my partners, oh my gosh, my expectation is that you should be able to accomplish these things. That might be societal expectations. This may be things where you feel like if I don't do them or if they don't do that, then something is lost and then something is going wrong, right? But I want you to acknowledge that, you know what, there might be more than one way to do things. There might be more than one way to do clean the bathroom, clean the kitchen, take care of a bill. Is the end result done? That's the part we need to say, are we okay with this? And it's also okay that I don't do it. So the third thing is I want you to create space. I want you to create emotional space for you. This space looks like time that you are creating in a space and a place of silence just for you. I want you to understand what it feels like just to feel something without having a solution. I want you to create a time where you are not confined by time, that you are not confined and restricted by obligations. And you get to determine that time. It may not be a whole day. A whole day may be too stressful for you. Even a half a day may be a little stressful for you. But say, can I create this 10 to 15 minutes? Next time, can I create 30 minutes? Next time, maybe I can create an hour. And the goal is not to keep going up, but you get to see what your level of capacity is to give as well as to receive these different levels of interpretations of how things should be done. You get to know your capacity, because that capacity will tell you when it's time to rest. That capacity will tell you when you need to take a break, right? That capacity will tell you that you need to wait a moment because your body is trying to tell you something. So if you create some space within you, then you'll say, what is my capacity to do a lot of things? And if you're going, if you're getting back into the busyness that we talked about earlier, if you're going back either into the quietness or you're going back into the easily frustrated, right, or short patience or any of those things, we don't understand what emotional space we're trying to fill because we didn't allow much time for that. We may have allowed very little time for that. All right, so then the last thing that I want you to do is that I want you to try, I said try, but I want you to try as hard as you can to know that every problem cannot be solved. At no point in time am I ever going to focus on solving life's problems, because life is going to do what it's going to do, and usually it's already written anyway. You just don't know the answer. It's already there. Okay? So I want you to be okay that there's no problem to solve, that you don't have to solve this or every other problem that may come your way. Just try and be okay with that if you can. All right? So your mantra, and this is a guideline. This is not a rule. This is a guideline. It's something I want you to think about and tweak it to match and deal with yours. Just tweak it a little bit and see what you come up with, right? That this is my life. This is my experience, and I get to navigate it my own way. This is my life. This is my experience, and I get to navigate it my own way. And you come up with your own mantra and see, but we want to create an avenue of possibilities, right? That we don't have this start and stop date, that we're not living in a box, that we're not living and limiting ourselves in these certain ways. We're not also limiting our relationships. So if we acknowledge that a lot of this stuff is external from society and our family and our friends, we can say, I know where this comes from. This is not fully my burden. Right? Maybe it's not even my burden at all. We can also say that I can embrace more than one interpretation of how something should get done. There's different ways to do things. The part of me that maybe I'm okay with not doing this being done my way, I'm going to delegate this. Or I'm okay with someone else doing it their way. Why? Because there's more than one way of doing things, and you recognizing I'm okay with that. Right? And then also now you're creating space. You're creating space and opportunity for you, to notice your body, to notice what you need. Right? And to notice, like, what is my capacity so that I don't fall back into business, so that I don't fall back into being easily frustrated. And now I'm now having to deal with and readjust relationships that are important to me. You get to learn what your capacity is, and your body's going to tell you that if you take a moment to listen to it. And then we're going to be okay that every problem does not have to be solved, right? So this is my life, this is my experience, and I get to navigate it my own way. So let me know what you think of this video. Would love to thumbs up, leave a comment. Hope you left some comments throughout below. Click that subscribe button. We drop videos every Monday. Click the subscribe button. If there's something that you want to hear, that you want me to talk about, please put it in the comments. I'll definitely will add it to our list of topics. And also check out the show notes and description, because there's a plethora of ways to work with me, and I would love to work and connect with you. I'm Sharice Josie, and I will see you in the next video.